The first things that come to mind when we think about castles are scenes from the Lord of the Rings films, or places like London's Royal Palace in England. While most castles in both ancient and modern times meet this definition somewhat well, some stand out from the others as being strange, absurd, or just plain useless. Many powerful people throughout history saw their home as a way to project their true power rather than a place of comfort, storage, and practicality. Examples of these types of homes include castles that take up an entire island, castles that are partially built into caves, and castles so large that the inhabitants themselves can sometimes get lost. Perhaps they were attempting to impress a girlfriend. Maybe they were possessed of more cash than they knew what to do, or maybe power got to them. Welcome back to our channel Tales of the Past. Today we are talking about top 10 insane castles of all time. These are the top 10 craziest castles ever constructed. But before we start, if you have not subscribed, please do so, as it helps us a lot. If you are done with it, then let's jump into it. Number 1. Hunyad Castle. Hunyad Castle appears to be something straight out of a horror film. The castle hosted Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula, as if Vlad the Impaler wasn't enough of a red flag raiser who was born into a wealthy family in Transylvania. It's unclear whether the castle resembles something from a horror film or if the castles in the movies were inspired by this one. It is most likely the latter, considering Dracula legends originated with the guy imprisoned in Hunyad Castle. Aside from the creepy decor and evil lords, the castle is a stunning sight that should be observed by anybody passing through the area, horror enthusiasts or not. The castle's history is intriguing, as is its influence on medieval tales and present pop culture. We've all seen a vampire movie or two, and seeing it in person, this just looks wonderful. Number 2. Predom Castle. From the exterior, Predom Castle is only partially visible. Why, you might ask? Because it includes a cave. Yes, you heard it right. There is a whole cave inside this castle, built into what appears to be a mountain's wall. Entering the castle allows access to the mountain's cave system, which is part of the housing for those who live in the castle. While modest in comparison to other castles, although still huge, and it is still a castle, the fact that it is part castle, part cave is what separates it from others. Surprisingly, construction on the castle is supposed to have begun in the 13th century and continued into the 20th. While it was not a constant work in progress, the castle's many owners over the years continued to expand on it by adding new wings, chambers, and passageways, and much more. Number 3. Leap Castle. Creepy. If I had to describe this castle in one word, that's exactly the word I'd use. Whoever thought it a good idea to build a castle, which would later go on to resemble something you'd see in Paranormal Activity, or the like, certainly has some different tastes, is beyond me. The outside of the castle looks like a dungeon. The crawl space looks like a dungeon. The rooms look like dungeons. You see where I'm going with this. As if all this wasn't enough, the two brothers whom inhabited the castle had a bit of a falling out when one killed the other by way of the sword. And, despite the entire castle already looking like a giant dungeon, it actually had a dungeon within it where subjects would be pushed off a ledge, fall down an 8-foot hole, and land on some spikes at the bottom. Very different tastes indeed. Number 4. Mont St Michelle. Mont St occupies a whole island off the coast of Normandy. Unlike many of the castles on this list, the former monastery status of this castle makes it appear less pretentious, while the needless amount of room and luxury remains. Mont St Michelle, once home to monks, is now a tourist attraction where visitors may drive up to it across a causeway and explore. Surprisingly, a few deaths have occurred here recently as a result of drowning deaths caused by the rapidly rising water. This is the only castle on this list that is still inflicting deaths to this day. The castle itself attracts more tourists than many entire communities around France, bringing in millions of visitors each year. This is easily one of the most famous castles in modern times, as it is constantly featured in many sorts of media and pop culture. You can't deny the scenery when you're surrounded by water. Number 5. Castello Deena. Situated in one of the more scenic, nature-centric areas of Italy, Castello Deena has been long abandoned and, for some reason, nobody feels like claiming it. It has served well as of late, however, as a great point of research for historians on both a cultural and architectural level. What makes this castle so odd is that it doesn't look like a castle at all. In fact, it simply looks like a giant brick house, save for its tower, situated in the middle of nowhere. While a distant city can be seen from the peak of the mountain it sits upon, one could only assume acquiring simple resources, such as food and water, would have been a somewhat troublesome ordeal. Either way, Castello Deena has helped us gain much understanding of Italy's past cultural heritage. Number 6. Els Castle. Els Castle is spooky but gorgeous. From the exterior, the German castle appears typical. Its method of soaring above a big jungle is incredibly lovely. The castle's interior is equally fine. Nothing special. Why is it so crazy? This is when you see nothing around the castle. From the castle's peak, all one will notice is forest as far as the eye can see. Built in the 12th century, the castle was a remote dwelling. Constant expansions made it a monster fortress. Only in the 14th century was it finished. Even after hundreds of years, the same family has owned the castle for almost 30 generations. Given how distant from society it was and is, you have to wonder what they were doing there. Number 7. Postmans Palace. Postmans Palace, like another castle on our list, was built under unusual circumstances. Often mocked by his friends for his bizarre and inappropriate behavior, one Frenchman believed it would be a good idea to build his own castle from the ground up. The castle, which is adorned with sculptures and seemingly unthinkable architectural achievements, was built in under 33 years from start to finish. Was he genuinely building a complete palace by himself? Or was there something else going on? At this point, no one knows. He did, however, win the admiration of his fellow architects at the completion of the castle, when he was regarded as an architectural genius throughout France. The castle has an unusual appearance, with nonsensical designs adorning the walls and an entryway that resembles a maze. But one thing was certain, this man was ambitious. Number 8. Berwartstein Castle. Bandits, thieves, and thugs lived in Berwartstein Castle for a long time. Imagine a group of criminals banding together and claiming their own castle. While the castle appears to be typical on the exterior, as far as castles go, what's within is a little strange. A significant chunk of the castle is underground. We're not discussing a two-story basement here. Berwartstein Castle features an extensive network of underground tunnels. The fact that these tunnels were not found by the robbers who later took up residence is unusual. Why would anyone require that much underground space in a palace larger than any 5 mansions combined? And why does so much of that underground area consist of spooky, underground passageways rather than just a large basement? Number 9. The Feather Palace. One of the most absurd castles is the Palácio da Pena, or the Feather Palace in Portuguese. While it may not have weird wall decorations, a dark story, or odd rooms, the castle is more like a city. I have no idea where the main entrance is. It has loosely connected buildings, gardens, courtyards, and roadways, not castle-like elements. The cultural roots of its architecture, everything may have caused this confusion. Not English, French, or Portuguese, it's a mix. It seems like the castle's builders changed their minds and blueprints throughout construction. Our castle must be the most impressive on our list. Number 10. Prague Castle is, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, up there with the biggest castles in the world. It's also considered an ancient castle, meaning it has been standing since well before medieval times. While either one of these facts isn't quite outstanding, it's the two of them in conjunction that are really crazy. Much like the pyramids and the Stonehenge, though possibly to a lesser degree, it's hard to dream up how ancient civilizations without the technology to move massive amounts of stone were able to build such a colossus of a building. While the building itself may not seem all that crazy at face value, When you look into its history, it's hard to imagine how it came to be in the first place. It certainly belongs in the ancient mysteries pile. With this, we come to end to our list. If you found this video interesting, do not forget to like and comment about the palace which you think is the craziest. And also do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bar. Till next time.